hey, you cool cats and kittens. I did that a couple of times and then someone definitely told me to stop. What, is Tiger King old already? Hey, I'm Michael. I'm here at the House Hacker and Investor Happy Hour. I'm here with my friend Chris, who is a prolific builder of DADUs and other infill housing in the Seattle area. Chris is just a regular guy that saw what was happening in our market and got really involved, both from a builder perspective and from a advocacy perspective. He's someone that I really admire, and he's got some really cool ideas about all the changes that are happening here in Seattle.
It was 2020 when I first moved to Seattle and came here to HouseHack, and learned all that stuff. So,
nice.
It's been 5 years. We've seen a lot of stuff change. And most importantly, we're seeing right now the Seattle code, housing code, zoning code changes and change in a big way. The DADU game is changing,
yes.
And the value play is shifting. And this is happening mid-January. We're getting a massive shift in where the value is in Seattle. And I think that value is shifting to kind of bigger lots and kind of more quote unquote suburban locations in Seattle where you can build a lot more. And so the question is, if we can build more, what do we build?
Yeah, that's a great question. One of the really interesting things about DADU opportunities is they have been just localized to a couple of areas. Kirkland, Seattle, Burien, a couple of less expensive markets where we see less of them like Tacoma, but it really has been a city thing, a big city thing up until this point. And you look at the code change and there are a lot of small to mid-sized cities now that are having this as a real opportunity. And this is coupled with the fact that post-COVID, a lot of people don't actually want to live in cities, they want to live city adjacent. So we've got this trend towards the suburbs that's happening. At the same time, we're allowing additional density in the suburbs. And these two things I think are going to combine to make some of the bigger opportunities in the future be a little bit outside of, say, Seattle proper, where we've been building in the past.
Yeah, 100%. And I think the kind of the biggest question is like, what do we build? We've, since 2019 when we passed these ADU rules, like we knew what to build. It was so limited. Like you were going to build an SFR, which is the big house, and you're going to build a attached ADU, and you're going to build a detached ADU, and they're all going to be 1,000 square feet. Because that's all you could build. So it was simple. Now it's hard. Now we can build almost anything. You can build, like a 50-bedroom rental if you wanted in certain places, like inside Seattle, inside neighborhood residential zoning. Or you could build 5 townhomes or 6 townhomes or 4 townhomes or 4 single families. But the question is, and maybe you can put your buyer's agent hat on and talk about like, if someone's looking in Broadview, up at like 120th in North Seattle, what do they want? Do they want 1,000 square foot DADU or do they want something different?
Yeah, that's a really good question. They definitely don't want what we have a huge glut of supply in right now, which is narrow townhomes. I think it was 2016 or 18, somewhere in the 2000 teens, where the density kind of jumped up on these LR builds, townhome builds in low-rise zoning. And we have the like circa 2008, 9, 10, 11, 12 townhomes that are a little bit wider and a little bit more livable. And then all of a sudden we went, and like 12 foot wide, 14 foot wide, 16 foot, really narrow townhomes. And we're able to get a lot of density, but now that the market isn't so hot, and now that buyers have options, and now that crucially, it is actually oftentimes a little bit more expensive to buy a home than rent a home in Seattle, people are finding those less livable layouts a lot less attractive. Obviously, there's still going to be great townhouse projects in Seattle. It's still a very good way to get a high level of density. It seems like there will be more demand for other things, and I think some of those things are going to be the other things that the code allows. 1,000 square feet is very doable for a lot of people, but I think what gets lost in this conversation about Seattle and the demographics of Seattle and how it's a lot of single people, it's a lot of couples, there are more dogs than children. What gets lost is everyone's working from home. So if you're a couple with a dog and you both need a home office, like, you're probably filling that 1,000 square feet just yourself. You don't have a guest room, you don't have room for a baby if the baby comes. Like, people are using a lot more space because of the need for home offices and because they're spending so much more time at home.
Great point, because I do feel like, almost everyone, like even if they're in the office, they're probably at home 1 or 2 days a week, or maybe one of the partners is home 1 or 2 days a week, which means they want that extra space. They want the guest room, they want the home office. So kind of trying to drill into this, like, let's paint the picture. We're up in Broadview, we keep talking about that, and we've got a 8,000 square foot lot. We could still do do an ADU and can do a 1,200 square foot ADU under the new code. So you can still do an ADU, now you can be 20% bigger. So you can get that third bed. Is that the play, or should we go even bigger? Because, you know, you can build, you know, kind of by right 4 units on almost any lot. So, you know, you could do 4 smaller, or you could do 2 larger. Like maybe kind of paint the picture of like, you know, that buyer who's wanting to move a little bit out, they're wanting to step up into their own place. You know, so we know townhomes are not it. We know the 1,000 square foot 2 beds are not it.
That is a good question. And if I knew the answer, I would have a lot more closings in North Seattle that I was actively building on. I think one of the biggest opportunities is going to be for, I mean, I don't know that I want to call it like upper middle class housing, but we'll say upper middle class housing. So it's a little bigger than 1,000 square feet. It is new construction, which for a lot of people that are not you or I and love ripping apart houses for a living, new construction is super attractive, especially in a city like Seattle. If you're looking for new construction and you don't want 1,000 square feet, I feel like there's a nice kind of middle point that's not really being delivered, because if you go to no kind of infill, no single family, or no ADU, no DADU on the lot, like you quickly jump to $2 million in a lot of neighborhoods. So in between the $2 million West Seattle, Magnolia, outside of those neighborhoods where you're just doing big single families, there's a lot of room for this like 1 point something, 1.1, 1.2, like mid-sized new single family that's larger than 1,000 square feet. And that is not really being delivered in the market in a meaningful way right now, besides from essentially scrape and rebuild projects, which there are some of, but not that many of. What do you think the opportunities are?
Going back to what you were saying earlier about supply and demand, which is what you always have to think about when you're trying to decide what to do, is like, because it could be the best product ever, but if there's too much of it, it doesn't matter. There's too much of it, you're out of luck. You know, so, but one thing we know for sure is there's too many small 2 beds. Like if you're for sale product and you're building small 2 beds, you better be rock bottom on the price, because there's so many of them right now. We've built a 2-to-1 ratio of 2 beds to, you know, larger homes, because you could build 2 ADUs for every SFR. So we've been adding them at a bigger clip, faster clip, you know, and then you have the townhome product, which there is an enormous supply of skinny townhomes like you're talking about. And so those are extremely well supplied, small 2 beds, you know, skinny townhomes, they're well supplied. And I think you were kind of touching on it earlier, which is, you know, what about that middle ground? What about that step up? What about when you have, you know, enough location flexibility, maybe have enough, you know, capital or savings, you know, to kind of step up a little bit? What do you aspire to? What's the next thing for you? You know, and I think that is something that's going to feel probably 2 stories instead of 3. It probably has covered parking or really convenient parking. It probably has something that feels like its own frontage, that feels like your house. When you invite your friends over for that housewarming party, everybody knows that's your house.
Surprisingly,
you know?
a big deal.
It's a huge deal, because so often you're like, no, take a left and then go behind this thing and then go down the stairs and then I'm the door on the left.
We're painting them different colors. It's like, so you say I'm the gray one, not the blue one, right? Like,
exactly. You know, and you want to give people that feeling, if you're stepping up, if you have a little more money, if you're building a little bit bigger, you want to give people that feeling of like, that's my house. You know, and that is a step up in Seattle. You know, many other places, you know, I talked to someone tonight from Idaho, and like everybody knows, you know, it's your lot, it's your house, it's your own thing. But in Seattle, it's not the case. You know, we're splitting lots and we're doing all sorts of crazy stuff to fit the density. But I think the opportunity that's coming in the new year, because we can build so much more, is building things that feel like that upgrade, you know? So it's got the things that almost feel like a true single family without that $1.5 to $2 million price point. You know, we're targeting, you know, $950 to $1.2. You know, we're delivering anything from maybe 1,300 square feet to 1,600 square feet. That's gonna perform really well, because that just hasn't been supplied, because these markets or these neighborhoods have been cut off. Like we couldn't offer that product, and now we can.
Yeah, and I think the reality is that everyone wants to have affordable housing. We want to have these smaller, affordable first-time home buyer homes. In practice, when we build them, the demand is relatively low. So there's this like disconnect and this shame that the people that we're trying to build affordable housing for sometimes either do not want to buy a house or cannot economically or physically buy a house. So there's the element of what is good for our city, to build, which is, I truly believe, more affordable housing. And then what the market is demanding right now, which generally is that slight step up. So we talked about a lot of things, Chris. There's new code coming. There's opportunities and there's risks with our current economic situation. There's opportunities and there's risks with building something that's a little bit different than what people are used to and what maybe people are comfortable with. What are you looking for in the next year? What kind of properties are you tackling, and what are you doing in your own personal portfolio with all these changes?
Yeah, great question, because I feel like there's so much there, and I think the biggest thing is just realizing there is a ton of opportunity, and we don't know yet, and just being honest about, like, we don't know what's out there, but we're gonna take our best guess. We're gonna try to play it safe. We're maybe gonna pad the pro forma a little bit, and we're gonna try to bring stuff to market because the opportunity is there. When you're a first mover, it also means you can get underpriced assets, and if you can get those lots at a decent price, and you can build 6 units instead of 2 DADUs, you're building 6 whole new units. Like, that's a whole different game, and sellers have not quite adjusted to this. And there's even more tidbits in there. Like, there's just to drop a nice little tidbit, there's a type A accessibility exemption that gives you, it used to be unlimited density. They capped it at 10 though. So you can literally build up to 10 units on any lot in Seattle if the first floor is fully accessible.
Interesting.
And so, like, there are all sorts of games that we play. This is one example of many that you can do. And really it's about buying well, buying smart, playing smart games where you kind of protect your downside risk there, and then hopefully capturing all of that upside, or at least a good portion of the upside. And I think that's the opportunity in the new year.
I totally agree with you. I think connected to that, what I'm doing in the new year is I'm refocusing my efforts on building my team. There are times when different elements of your team are most valuable. I think right now, builders and architects are just the kind of people that you want to be spending time with all these new code changes. What can you build? And then validating it with the actual builders. How much is this going to cost me? Right? These are the theoretical opportunity is one thing, the boots on the ground experience about what it can be built and what it'll cost to build it is what's going to decide whether these projects make sense and should be taken on, or whether we're just talking and and giving you various ideas to lose money in real estate.
It's so true. Yeah, and on that note, Michael, thanks so much for chatting. It's always fun to kind of dive into these new and exciting opportunities.
It always is. I had no idea we just talked for 20 minutes. I'm sorry, man.